The visiting room smells like industrial cleaner and despair. Chloe sits across from me at a metal table bolted to the floor, her once manicured nails bitten to the quick, her designer highlights grown out into mousy brown roots. The woman who used to command every room she entered now flinches when the orderly walks past the door. She looks at me with hollow eyes, eyes that used to sparkle with malice and envy, and whispers the words that brought me here today. You knew. You knew what he was, and you let me try. I don't deny it, I don't apologize. I just sit there, hands folded in my lap, and let the silence stretch between us like a burial shroud. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand how we got here, how my stepsister, the woman who spent 15 years trying to take everything I had, finally reached for something that bit back. Let me take you to the beginning. Let me tell you about Leo. I met my husband at a charity gala 3 years ago. He was magnetic, tall, dark-eyed, with the kind of intense focus that made you feel like the only person in the universe. When he looked at me, really looked at me, I felt seen in a way I'd never experienced before. The courtship was a whirlwind. Flowers every day, texts every hour. He wanted to know where I was, who I was with, what I was thinking. At first, it felt like passion, like being chosen. Like finally being loved the way I'd always dreamed. The first time he showed up at my office unannounced, just to see my face, I thought it was romantic. The 5th time, I started to wonder. By month 6, I had a tracking app on my phone that he'd installed for safety. By month 8, he'd suggested I quit my job so we could spend more time together. By our first anniversary, I realized that what I'd mistaken for devotion was something else entirely. Obsession. Leo didn't just love me. He consumed me. He needed to know my location at all times. He read my emails, my texts, my social media messages. He bought the house across from my best friend's apartment so he could keep me safe when I visited her. He hired a security team that reported directly to him. I was the center of his universe, and that universe had very, very small walls. Have you ever been loved so completely that you couldn't breathe? That's what living with Leo felt like. A gilded cage with a devoted jailer who worshipped the ground I walked on while never letting me walk anywhere alone. I was suffocating, but I was also protected, provided for, and in his twisted way cherished. Enter Chloe. My stepsister came into my life when I was 12 and she was 14. Her mother married my father after his divorce from my mom, and from day one, Chloe made it clear that anything I had, she wanted. My bedroom, my friends, my father's attention. She was beautiful in a sharp, hungry way, and she wielded that beauty like a weapon. Every boyfriend I brought home, she flirted with. Every achievement I earned, she diminished. Every moment of happiness I found, she tried to poison. We were adults now, but nothing had changed. Chloe was twice divorced, perpetually broke despite her expensive tastes, and absolutely consumed with jealousy over my life with Leo. Not because she cared about me, but because Leo was wealthy, handsome, and devoted in a way her ex-husbands had never been. She didn't see the tracking apps. She didn't see the controlled access to my own bank accounts. She didn't see the way Leo's eyes went cold when I mentioned a male colleague's name. All she saw was a man who couldn't stop looking at his wife. The family dinner happened 6 months ago, my father's birthday. Everyone gathered around the table: Dad, Chloe's mother Linda, Chloe, Leo, and me. Pleasant conversation, good wine. And Chloe, wearing a dress cut low enough to be a statement, seated directly across from my husband. She laughed too loudly at everything he said. She touched his arm when she reached for the bread. She made comments about how lucky I was, how she wished someone would look at her that way. Leo didn't notice. He never noticed other women. His eyes stayed fixed on me, watching me eat, watching me drink, watching me breathe. To anyone else, it might have looked romantic. To me, it felt like being pinned under a microscope. But Chloe watched Leo watch me, and I saw something dangerous kindle in her expression. After dinner, she cornered me in the kitchen while I loaded the dishwasher. Her voice was a silky whisper, meant only for my ears. "You don't appreciate what you have," she said. "The way he looks at you. Most women would kill for that. I know how to handle a man like that. I'd make him feel valued." I should have felt threatened, angry, defensive. Instead, I felt something strange. A chill that had nothing to do with Leo's possessiveness and everything to do with the hungry, calculating look in my stepsister's eyes. She wasn't just envious. She was planning something, and she had no idea what she was really looking at. She saw devotion. She saw romance. She saw a prize to be won. She didn't see the monster, but she would. The fight that changed everything started over a coffee cup. A male colleague named James had written his number on my cup at the office, a harmless gesture, probably just networking, definitely nothing romantic. I'd thrown the cup away without a second thought. but Leo saw it first. He'd stopped by my office to surprise me with lunch, which really meant checking up on me. When he noticed the number scrawled on the cardboard, his entire demeanor shifted. The warm smile froze, the loving eyes went flat. "Who's James?" I tried to explain. I tried to show him my texts, my emails, the complete absence of anything inappropriate, but logic doesn't penetrate obsession. By the time we got home that night, Leo had convinced himself I was having an affair. "I've given you everything," he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "Everything, and this is how you repay me? There's nothing to repay, I didn't do anything." "Then why did he give you his number?" "Because that's what people do, it's networking, it means nothing." But to Leo, everything meant something. Every interaction was a threat, every man was a rival. Every moment I wasn't under his watchful eye was a moment I could be betraying him. We screamed at each other for hours. For the first time in our marriage, I grabbed my keys and left. I stayed at a hotel that night, shaking with rage and exhaustion, wondering what I was doing with my life. Was this love? Was this marriage? Or was this just a beautiful prison I'd walked into willingly? I should have stayed longer. I should have used that night to think clearly, to plan, to consider my options. Instead, I went home the next morning and found Chloe already there. She was in my kitchen, wearing my robe, a silk thing Leo had bought me for our anniversary, pouring coffee like she belonged there. Leo sat at the breakfast bar, staring at his phone, his face drawn and tired. "Oh," Chloe turned with practiced surprise when I walked in. "You're back, Leo, she's back." She rushed toward me, wrapping me in a hug that felt like a snake coiling. "He was so worried, poor thing," she murmured into my ear. "He called me at midnight, absolutely frantic. Someone needs to take care of him when you disappear like that." I looked at Leo over her shoulder. He met my eyes, and for the first time I saw something that made my blood run cold. Distance. He looked at me like I was a stranger, like I'd already betrayed him. Like Chloe's version of events had already taken root in his paranoid mind. "You left," he said flatly. "You just left. We had a fight, couples fight, I needed space." "You needed space from me." The accusation hung in the air. Chloe released me, stepping back with a sympathetic expression that didn't reach her eyes. "I'll give you two some privacy," she said sweetly. "Leo, call me if you need anything, anything at all." She squeezed his arm as she passed. He didn't pull away. The next few days were a masterclass in manipulation, Chloe's manipulation. She texted Leo constantly, checking in. She stopped by with food, with comfort, with understanding. She was everything I apparently wasn't: supportive, patient, devoted. And I watched it happen, feeling like I was drowning in slow motion, until I found the lipstick. It was on Leo's collar, a smear of deep red that he hadn't noticed. My stomach dropped when I saw it. Evidence of something physical, proof of betrayal. But then I looked closer. The shade was wrong. I owned that lipstick, a gift from Chloe actually, that I'd never worn because the color didn't suit me. It had been sitting in my drawer for months. Someone had taken it. Someone had deliberately planted it. I checked my makeup drawer. The lipstick was gone. The realization crashed over me like ice water. This wasn't an affair. This was sabotage. Chloe wasn't just comforting Leo. She was engineering scenarios to make me look like the villain and herself like the savior. Every dropped hint, every concerned visit, every moment of support for my poor, worried husband. It was all calculated to drive a wedge between us. But why? What did she think would happen? And then I understood. Chloe wanted Leo. She saw his obsession and mistook it for transferable devotion, something she could steal if she just proved she was worthy. She thought if she could make Leo doubt me enough, distrust me enough, he would turn that consuming focus toward her instead. She had no idea what she was playing with. That night, I stood at the top of the stairs and watched through the railing as Chloe touched Leo's arm again, laughing at something he'd said. He didn't pull away, but he didn't lean in either. His eyes flicked toward the stairs, finding me in the shadows, and I realized something that changed everything. Leo's obsession wasn't transferable. It wasn't about devotion or romance or love. It was about ownership, possession, and I was the only name on that deed. Chloe thought she was winning. She was actually building her own trap. I stopped being a wife that week. I became a scientist, the subject of my study, my own husband. Leo had installed security cameras throughout our house, for protection, he'd always said. I'd resented them for years, knowing they were really just another layer of surveillance. But now, I accessed the footage with new eyes. Not as a prisoner, as a strategist. I watched hours of recordings. I saw Chloe entering our home while I was at work, going through my belongings, taking small items she could use to plant evidence. I saw her practicing concerned expressions in our hallway mirror before seeking out Leo. I saw her touch his arm, his shoulder, his hand, always just intimate enough to suggest closeness, never enough to trigger his alarm bells. She was good, I'll give her that. She'd clearly studied seduction like a craft, but she'd made one critical error. She was studying Leo's behavior. She was studying what he did. She never bothered to understand why. I did. One night, after Chloe had gone home, Leo opened up to me in a way he rarely did. We were lying in bed, and he started talking about his childhood, his mother who abandoned him at 6, his father who blamed him for her leaving, the foster homes that taught him love was something that could be withdrawn at any moment. Everyone leaves, he said, his voice hollow. Everyone. The only way to keep someone is to hold them so tight they can't slip away. It was the most honest he'd ever been about his obsession, and it was devastating. I should have felt pity. Part of me did. But mostly I felt something else, a cold, calculating recognition. Leo's obsession wasn't about love, it was about terror. Terror of abandonment, terror of betrayal, terror that the thing he cherished most would be taken from him, and that terror could be weaponized. Chloe thought Leo's obsession was a prize to be won. She thought if she positioned herself as the loyal one, the devoted one, the better option, she could transfer his focus to her. But she didn't understand the fundamental truth. Leo's obsession was a locked system with only one user. Me. And anyone who threatened that system, anyone who helped me leave, who encouraged my independence, who positioned themselves between us, would be classified not as a potential partner, but as a threat. An infection to be eliminated. Is this the part where you judge me? Where you decide I'm the villain for seeing this clearly? Maybe I am. But Chloe spent 15 years trying to destroy me. She'd sabotaged relationships, spread rumors, stolen opportunities. And now she was trying to take my husband, not because she loved him, but because she couldn't stand seeing me have something she didn't. She wanted to play games? Fine, I'd play. I started my counter-campaign with surgical precision. First, the fake emails. I created an account under a random name, David something, and sent myself flirtatious messages. Suggestive but not explicit. The kind of thing that would look like a budding affair to anyone reading over my shoulder. I knew Leo monitored my devices. I was counting on it. I left my laptop open on the kitchen counter, the email tab visible, and went to take a shower. When I came back, Leo's face was pale and his hands were shaking. "Meg," he said quietly. "Who's David?" I played innocent. Confused, I let him discover the emails, let him interrogate me, let him spiral into paranoid fury. And then I broke down crying. "I don't know who's sending these," I sobbed. "Someone's trying to ruin us, someone who wants to break us apart." The seeds were planted. Next, I had a carefully staged conversation with Chloe. I played the unhappy wife, confiding that Leo's possessiveness was suffocating me, that I'd been thinking about leaving, that I'd even been talking to someone new. "His biggest fear is betrayal," I whispered, like it was a secret I was sharing with my closest confidant. "If he ever thought I was cheating on him, I don't know what he'd do." Chloe's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. She thought I was handing her ammunition. I was loading a weapon and pointing it at her face. The trap was set. Now I just needed her to walk into it. I told Leo I was leaving for a weekend work retreat. Conference in Denver. Very boring. I'd be back Sunday night. He didn't want me to go, of course he didn't. He checked the conference website, verified it was real, called the hotel to confirm my reservation. I'd anticipated all of it, booking everything legitimately. I even FaceTimed him from the airport, showing him my boarding pass. What he didn't know was that I never got on the plane. Instead, I drove to a friend's cabin 3 hours away. She'd left the key under the mat and asked no questions. I set up my laptop, connected to our home security system, and settled in to watch the show. But first, I made one more call. Chloe answered on the second ring. "Meg, what's wrong? You sound upset." I let my voice tremble. "I need your help. I need you to cover for me with Leo." "Cover for you? What do you mean?" "I'm not actually going to a conference." I paused, took a shaky breath. "I'm meeting David, the man from the emails. I need to see if this is real, if there's something worth leaving for." Silence on the line. I could practically hear her scheming. "Meg," she said slowly, "are you sure that's a good idea?" "No, but I have to know, and I need you to not tell Leo. Please, Chloe, if he finds out I'm not where I said I'd be, you know how he gets." "Of course," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Your secret's safe with me. I'll keep Leo calm." "I'll bet you will." From the cabin, I watched everything through the security cameras. Chloe waited less than 24 hours before making her move. She showed up at our house Saturday evening with wine and comfort food, playing the concerned sister-in-law. Leo was agitated. He tried calling me 3 times and gotten voicemail exactly as I'd planned. I'm sure she's just busy with the conference, Chloe soothed, touching his arm. You know how these things are. But her body language told a different story. She sat too close. She laughed too warmly. She let her hand linger on his knee. And then she went for the kill. Leo, there's something you should know. Her voice was hesitant, reluctant, perfectly acted. I don't want to hurt you, but Meg isn't at a conference. She told me she was meeting someone, a man named David. She asked me to cover for her. I watched Leo's face through the camera. The progression was almost beautiful in its terrifying precision. Confusion, denial, recognition, and then transformation. His features went flat, empty, like someone had switched off all the lights behind his eyes. She told you this, he said, his voice deadly quiet. I'm so sorry, I didn't want to be the one to, and you agreed to help her. Chloe hesitated. The first flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. She begged me not to say anything. But I couldn't lie to you, Leo. I care about you too much. She leaned in, placing her hand on his cheek. I would never betray you like that. I would never leave. Leo stared at her for a long moment, then he smiled. It was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. You helped her, he said softly. You helped my wife leave me. You're part of this, part of the infection. Chloe pulled back, confusion blooming into the first hints of fear. What? No, Leo, I'm on your side. There are no sides. He stood and she scrambled off the couch, suddenly aware that something had gone very, very wrong. There's me, and there's Meg, and there's everyone who tries to come between us. Leo, please, you thought you could replace her. He stepped toward her, she stepped back. You thought if you just proved you were better, more loyal, more devoted, I'd choose you instead. But you don't understand anything, do you? She's not replaceable. She's mine, and you, he smiled again. You just became a problem. I watched Chloe's face transform from confusion to terror. She ran for the door. He didn't chase her. He didn't need to. He just watched her go, that empty smile still fixed on his face. My phone buzzed 10 minutes later. A garbled voicemail from Chloe, her breath ragged with panic. 2 words, barely comprehensible. He's here. I didn't call back. I came home Sunday evening, right on schedule. The house was spotless. Every surface gleaming, every cushion perfectly arranged. Leo met me at the door with roses and that intense, adoring gaze I knew so well. I missed you, he said, wrapping his arms around me. Every second felt like a year. I missed you too. He held me close, his chin resting on top of my head, and I felt the vibration of his voice through his chest. I dealt with a problem while you were gone, he said quietly. Something that was threatening us, threatening our love. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't need to. Thank you, I whispered, for protecting us. His arms tightened. Always, no one will ever come between us, I promise you that. We spent the rest of the evening in domestic bliss, dinner, wine, a movie on the couch with my head in his lap. Leo stroked my hair like I was something precious, something fragile, something that belonged entirely to him. I slept better that night than I had in months. 3 weeks later, I visited Chloe. The facility was discreet, a private psychiatric center that specialized in acute anxiety disorders. She'd admitted herself after a complete breakdown, unable to function, unable to sleep, unable to stop looking over her shoulder. She sat across from me at that metal table, a ghost of the woman she'd been, the sharp edges worn down, the hungry ambition replaced by hollow terror. He's everywhere, she whispered. I see him everywhere, in crowds, in cars, watching through windows. Every time my phone buzzes, every time someone knocks on my door, I think it's him. What exactly did he do? Her eyes darted around the room as if he might be listening. He didn't touch me, that's the thing. He never laid a finger on me, but he was always there. At the coffee shop, I'd turn around and he'd be 2 tables away. At the grocery store, he'd be in the same aisle. He knew my work schedule, my gym routine. When I came home, he would just watch, she shuddered. He sent me flowers at my office, dozens of roses with a note, I see you. He called my landlord pretending to be a reference check and got himself a key to my building. He would stand in the parking lot at 2 in the morning, just standing there, looking up at my window. Did you go to the police? Of course I did, her voice cracked. They said he hadn't made any threats, hadn't done anything illegal. Just a dispute between family members, they called it. But Meg, she leaned forward, grabbing my hands with trembling fingers. You knew what he was. You knew what he would do to anyone who threatened your marriage, and you let me walk right into it. I looked at my stepsister, the woman who'd spent 15 years trying to destroy me, who'd engineered scenarios to break my marriage, who'd tried to steal my husband because she couldn't stand seeing me happy. And I felt nothing. No pity, no guilt, no remorse, just cold, crystalline satisfaction. You tried to take what was mine, I said quietly. You thought you could just waltz in and claim him, like you've claimed everything else in my life. But you didn't understand the first thing about Leo. You saw obsession and thought it was devotion. You saw possessiveness and thought it was love. You thought if you just played the right cards, he'd transfer all that intensity to you. I pulled my hands away from hers. But Leo's obsession isn't love, Chloe. It's ownership. And I'm the only thing he'll ever own. Everyone else is just a threat to be neutralized. Her face crumpled. Meg, please. You wanted what I had, you got it. A taste of what it's like to be the center of Leo's attention. I stood, straightening my jacket. I hope it was everything you dreamed of. I left her crying in that sterile room and never looked back. Am I wrong for what I did? Maybe. Probably. I turned my husband's pathological obsession into a weapon and aimed it at my stepsister. I let her walk into a trap I could have warned her about. But she spent 15 years trying to break me. She tried to sabotage my marriage, to position herself as my replacement, to take the one thing in my life that was truly mine. She just didn't understand that what was mine was also dangerous. Leo's obsession was my cage. For years, I resented it. I suffocated under it. I dreamed of escape. But now I understand its value. His obsession is my armor, my protection. The wall that keeps everyone who wishes me harm at a safe distance. Chloe learned that lesson the hard way, and if anyone else tries to come between us, they'll learn it too. I go home to Leo every night now. I submit to the tracking apps, the security cameras, the constant surveillance. I let him love me in his consuming, terrifying way. Because inside this gilded cage, I'm untouchable. And that, in the end, is its own kind of power.